All right, haven't done that in a while. Kind of got caught in the straw hat. But how's it going, lads? I got to see Film Red this Friday. I was fucking hyped. I was like, let's go, come on. All right, I got my large popcorn. I went to go see it with some friends of mine. It was a really good theater experience. Before we talk about the movie itself, the theater experience was actually really good because a lot of people were energetic and like people were, saying like, "Oh my god," people were chanting and shit, and like the movie was flickering. If you saw the short I did, and people were shouting every time it came back on and shit, it was just a pleasant experience. To be honest, you don't get that much in Irish theaters. If I'm gonna be honest, people just kind of sit there and watch the movie. And for the most part, that's usually good. But with a big movie like this, where it's like, a big climactic movie, Shanks and all this, you're like, it's good to have that. You know what I mean? It was nice, and this one guy didn't. He must have been an anime only. And when Gear Fifth showed up, he was losing his mind. That was crazy. I loved it. I loved that shit. And then some like three people got kicked out for some reason. Couldn't figure out why. I was too focused on the movie. So it was a very good experience that way. And the movie was very good as well. So the movie was so good. It's just I have a few little nitpicks as I've sat with it for a while. But I loved it overall. As I said in one of my tweets, my heart is saying 10 out of 10. My mind is saying 8. You know what I mean? It's that sort of way for the most part with me. But we'll run through it from the beginning. First of all, the music, of course, since that was like the main focus of the movie for some of it, because it was a musical movie, right? I was listening to the soundtrack a lot throughout like the coming months since it released on Spotify, which honestly anime companies should do more often, releasing soundtracks to their series on Spotify. Like imagine if Overtaken was officially on Spotify, or like Sanji's jazz music. Boom, boom. But I can't do it, to be honest. I'm bad at. I did it once. I was like, ba I can't. They're playing it a lot in the show right now, so I should be able to do it. But my brain just hit a blank. I'm sorry. But you know what I'm saying? Like the constant soundtracks would be nice because I just like soundtrack music. Even like the Xenoblade 3 soundtrack, I've been listening to that over and over again. So when they released the Film Red soundtrack, or at least the Uda songs from that movie on Spotify, man, my Spotify Wrapped is just gonna be that for the entire for this year. To be honest with you, oh man, New Genesis is absolutely a fantastic song. I love the fourth song on the list where it's like the music video is her running down a hallway and like a dark version of herself shows up. I don't know what the song is called because they're all the Japanese versions. And the Bink Sake, of course, which Bink Sake is actually important, an important song on the playlist because of what happens in the movie and certain things that are left unsaid. But I think having Bink Sake in it, even though it wasn't in the movie itself, kind of to me shows what they were originally planning to do and what is a hint at what they might have done at the end of the day. Now you could take it two different ways, but I took it a more positive route. So we'll see. We'll see what you guys think when I get to that. But we'll talk. Um, of course, New Genesis was fantastic. I watched the sub, so I don't know if they did dub songs for the dub version. The dub version was on the day after the it released in my theater, and because I had people down, didn't have the chance to go and watch it. Unfortunately, when it releases on Blu-ray, I'll definitely go and get it, and I'll say what I think about the dub. To be honest with you, but the movie itself was really good. I love the relationship between Luffy and Uta, which I think the anime episodes really built on. So it helped a lot when watching this movie. And I just love it, to be honest. Everything about this movie, from like the all the character interactions and just sort of focusing on like the relationship Luffy and Uta have with Shanks, and sort of Law Law and Beppo played a less important role, and it was more comedy release. And that Beppo's whole gag of just being a mega fan of Uta was so funny because randomly his fucking like Uta fans would just pop out and be like, "Duh, duh, duh, duh." It was like, oh, I was dying. Like some of this stuff was like the really simple comedy really got me. And Brooke having a semi important role, but not doing too much. Unfortunately, you want Brooke to do a bit more in a music film, but what are you gonna do? I wanted that Uta Brook duet. You know what I'm saying? I'm still waiting for that. They should do that at some point. Like, make they have AI models for Uta. They should get one for Hiyori and Brook, and get the actors to do a like a triple music video of like Bink Sake or something, or the Moon Princess or something. That shit would be so good. Or New Genesis if they want to promote the movie, I guess. You know what I'm saying? And of course, I had to wear this hat. That's where I got it. Um, it doesn't fit my head though, so I look like a dope. But hey, it's funny. So what you gonna do? But generally, the movie was fantastic. Uta's powers were crazy, and the animation with that stuff was top notch. The animation in this movie, I liked it a lot. I do think the CGI was a bit odd, but it wasn't too bad because I was kind of used to it by now, and I was sort of like, yeah, that's fine. They blended it in reasonably well for Toei. I do know a lot more people who are more sensitive to it, who weren't the biggest fans of that particular part of it. But you know, generally, I thought the animation was 10 out of 10. I loved it. During the music videos, I was hype as fuck. Well, the music segments, you know, you were hype as fuck. They blended it into the action very, very well. And the sort of like, you know, they start the action off with the kidnap scene, and then they're like, all right, and then that leads into her true motivations, and it's really good. Now, her motivations, that's one thing we can talk about now. I'm going to kind of jump to a spoilery element of the movie. Now, obviously, I liked the fights. I like Uta as a character. To me, I love her entire concept, to be honest with you. You know, obviously, Shanks' daughter is a cool concept straight off the bat, right? You know, oh, I'm the child of Shanks in this, right? But the fact she was a musician, and you see that she was sort of the catalyst for Luffy's dream in a sense. You know, he was like, I'll make a New Genesis, right? And they went through it in their own way. And we still don't even know what his version of the New Genesis is yet. And then her impact on Luffy always wanted a musician, because it's like, it's not a pirate crew without a musician, you know what I'm saying? So the impact she has on Luffy retrospectively is amazing, and I just love her sort of dynamic with him, to be honest, because I don't know if her willingness to want to get rid of him in this movie kind of shows that she believes if I let Luffy live, when he decides to do something, he's not gonna back down. You know, he'll get it done, which in a way shows her belief in Luffy. You know, to want to achieve, for how he'll achieve his dreams, right? So you could view it as a positive if you wanted to. You know what I'm saying? But it was their dynamic was brilliant. The outfits, man, the outfits in this movie were stellar. Like I love when Oda gives characters black outfits, right? Because he did it in Stampede when they walked up to save Nami, and it was just so cool. And he did it again halfway through the film, and it just works so well. I will say, unfortunately, Bounty Rush didn't get a Film Red Nami or sorry, not Nami, Film Red Robin or Film Red Jinbei or Film Red Zoro. You know, all those Film Red characters. We might get them eventually, but just a little jab there, boys. I need me fix. I need me fix. You know what I'm saying? Still waiting for Ivory Guy though. But no, it was the designs and everything were really good. The dynamics between Luffy and Uta, and all right, I'm gonna talk about Shanks real quick before we get into any nitpicks about the movie, because essentially that's what they are. Besides a few glaring issues I had, it felt like a real One Piece movie because you got the positivity and energy of like the music at the beginning, Luffy's whole dynamic, you know, everything about that and things like that. And it jumped to the, you know, standard One Piece tragedy, which I really love. But when Shanks shows up near the end of it and stops her from killing Luffy, the look on his face of like, kind of happy to see her, but he knows he fucked up, right? He knows he messed up, and you can see that look of sorrow in his face, like, I messed up as a father. And that's so good. Because in a way, it shows you how flawed Shanks is. Because no matter what he does, something always goes wrong, you know? He tries to stop Ace. He tries to warn Whitebeard about Ace. The Marineford War happens. Yeah, he stops the war, but Luffy still loses a brother, you know what I'm saying? And then he tries to stop Blackbeard. He gets a scar in his eye, right? You know, he tries to be strong for his captain, but his captain gets executed. He cannot win. He's getting a loss after a loss, right? He cannot, no matter how hard he tries, no matter how strong he gets, something in his life always fails him. And he just failed the one thing that mattered most to him in the world. He tried to do right by her by leaving her behind after Totem Music had destroyed the island using their body as a vessel. But instead, he caused her trauma and causing a big incident in the world. Now I know this movie isn't canon, but the character and the backstory are canon, which I have a few interesting theories about this, which we'll get into at the end. You know, just talk about that. But while we're that look of disappointment in his eyes, so we're not doing anything. He did not move to attack anybody or say anything. In fact, Ben Beckman was really the voice of reason through this entire movie. He didn't speak, and Shanks didn't actually speak to Uda that much until she kind of lost consciousness at the end of the movie and woke back up. Because, and the thing is about well, not really, because the wake shrooms or whatever, but like, you know what I mean. And he sort of just stayed quiet, getting his ass kicked by the civilians, using her powers and stuff. And I just think that really worked, because when you're seeing that backstory, you are thinking, like, what are you doing? Mate, you're a Yonko. Why are you leaving her behind? Yeah, you want her to be a musician. Alright. She can learn how to be a musician, right? I get it, you're pirates, you can't help her sing. But to be honest with you, bro, like, she has the sing fruit, man. She can nurture it anyway. You can literally get the best musician in the world. Like, get a really good musician, bring him on the crew to be her tutor, maybe. Like, you can do anything. And the whole point is, you know, oh, we don't want no target on our head. Mate, I get that idea, but you left your daughter isolated, right? And you're a Yonko, and we see at the end of the movie, right? The Kizaru, Fujitora, and all the vice admirals come in to try and get it, and Shanks is just like, you don't go near my daughter. And like a massive thing of Conqueror's Hockey just sprues out from him, right? Absolutely knocking out everyone but the admirals, and it was fantastic. It shows it's a feat I really want to see from Luffy at some point, and it was just so good, right? And it just, like, having a feat like that was obviously for fan service, and I'm sure the power scalers were going mad. And this helps my Mihawk agenda, but I'm not gonna go on about that today. But that's my point, right? Is that we see the power of Shanks without moving a finger. He can literally take out everyone but the top 3 in the Marines, right? Or I guess the top 4 if you include the fleet admirals. Okay? Like, that guy is a beast, you know what I'm saying? And he's like, nah, I can't take care of my little girl. Like, no, what are you doing? Okay, I know Gordon's like the best musician or best musical tutor around, but like, come on. You know what I mean? And Totem Musica, who ended up taking him out in the first place? It was Shanks. You know, Shanks did the only attack that did any sort of damage. I know they say Uta fell asleep, but the final attack we see against Totem Musica before it dissipates is Shanks. So like, he could obviously hold it off somewhat. And I hear a lot of people saying like, oh well, he only had one bill back then, he wasn't as strong. But bro, okay, right? I know Momonosuke's from Wano, yeah. And he's not as well known out in the real world. Not out in the, what would you call it? Outside of Wano, right? But he is still a child, and Whole Cake Luffy is able to take care of a child on his ship. So are you telling me a Shanks with the same berry number, who seems about as strong as Luffy is now, probably about early rooftop level? I'd assume he's like early rooftop level or like early AOC without gear 5th level, right? That's what I assume. That's what I see the one Billy Shanks to look like, right? Because I feel like you wouldn't have some Luffy reaching the height of his mentor now. Just doesn't seem right. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of think he's a good bit stronger still in that early stage. So are you telling me that he couldn't handle that? I don't think so. So it felt very, very, I don't know, it didn't feel right for me personally. And Totem Musica as a concept, to be fair, I didn't think about it originally, but this chapter itself, because I didn't talk about this chapter, and probably I'll make a whole separate thing about the chapter itself, but it brings into focus that all the magical stuff we see in One Piece always has a scientific explanation, right? Or some sort of explanation that makes some sort of sense, right? You got hockey making sense of stuff like mantra and different abilities we see, like the stuff against Dad's Bone and things like that, right? But Totem Musica makes no sense. Alright? Totem Musica is like, alright, I'm a magical piece of writing that houses like the demon king of the One Piece world, and you can just burn me and I'll go away. But Gordon decided not to burn me in like the 12 years in between, and it doesn't mention that he placed a curse on him, but we can just assume that he did, not to get rid of him, because otherwise that man is so stupid. And I understand the whole point of the backstory was to show that Shanks tried to protect her and he made a bad decision, and he's well aware of that. And that's great character, character flaws are good. But Gordon was just pure stupidity because he didn't want her to use it. He knew she had a good voice. Mate, you should have just trusted her in her ability to be able to make that good music and not have to rely on Totem Musica and get rid of it. Now, I'm sure because Oda has definitely put so much care into Uta's development and to her characterization that we might actually get a bit of backstory on Totem Musica in the main story. We might get like small allusions to it. It might not show up in the story, but we might get like small information pieces. It might even show up in SBSs. I can actually assume it might have shown up in SBS 1004, but I haven't seen anything about it yet because honestly I haven't been paying attention to the manga stuff besides the new chapter because of this movie. You know what I'm saying? So we could get more information about it, but I have to say, although the backstory was very heartwarming and I think it did a lot for Shanks personally with his flaws and the flaws of the crew itself, and I love how they use that backstory to take a jab at Yasop. I love that. And actually, something that was pointed out to me by a friend of mine is that they might use this to help redeem Yasop in like earlier parts. They might give him a backstory that makes him redeemable. And I don't want that, to be honest with you. I don't want Yasop to be redeemable. He left his sick wife behind with his only child to go out and pirate with Shanks, right? And I don't really want him to be redeemable, to be honest, because he's such a dick and he's never done anything for his child, from what we know. And I really want it to be like that because it will push Usopp to surpass him. His idol was just a dickhead all along and didn't really care. Might work out better, but then you're like, well, Shanks wouldn't hang out with that sort of person. But I want a bit of gray area would be nice, but I don't want him to be entirely redeemed, and that's something this movie brought up to me personally, was that I don't want Yasop to get that redemption whenever we see him again. But there was a nice scene between him and Usopp where they're trying to basically solve the major problem, and you need to use observation hockey, right? And then it's like Usopp finally figures it out and he gets like a mental connection with his dad, and his dad's like, "Oh, my silly son, you finally figured it out, right?" And that was a nice piece of fan service, and I really enjoyed that personally. But I still think Gordon was just annoying, to be honest. You could have taken him out of it, and it obviously was important to have a guardian for Uta, but to have him have the power to destroy Totem Musica, it just didn't make sense. Because you could have easily written it so like, Totem Musica was sealed away again, and it couldn't be destroyed, so we sealed it away again or something. It was, you could have said it was made. It was like it. You could have said simply it was made of similar materials to the poneglyphs, and he didn't have the ability to destroy it because we know no one can destroy the materials of the poneglyphs that we know of so far. Not even Kaido. You know what I mean? So like, it would have made sense if you wrote it like that, but no, they wrote it as if Gordon didn't want to destroy it, which I think was stupid. But look, they're small nitpicks. The overall movie, the characterization of the main characters, Shanks's whole moments, all the power scaling was the shit was cool. You know, seeing Kizaru and his drip. My man, Kizaru was dripped out. Okay, I let's just say that, right? That shit was absolutely top tier. Oh man, fresh as all hell, right? Seeing Kizaru do shit, seeing Fujitora just like put an Aokiji and just show up for some screen time and do nothing. Get a hint at Shanks' lineage in the early parts of the movie. But I will say something that's odd, right? Um, because it is said that like what it looks like the Black Wings are from Totem Musica, and actually that might bring up a good hint at what Totem Musica actually is. It could be like the poneglyph version of the Lunarian script or something, and maybe it just has that effect on humans. You never know, and it could tie into the current arc with Vegapunk, with obviously Mads having experimented with Lunarian DNA, because we know Sanji and his brothers have some. It looks like hinted at Queen in that sense, so we could see we might be able to get some confirmation. Maybe that's like the head Lunarian, like or maybe it's like the buildup of a resentment of all Lunarians, sort of like written into script, you know, their final last words, and all the resentment builds up in that script, causing that to happen. I don't know. But it would kind of put it to ease, not, you know, not as much magic based. Maybe it was something like the poneglyphs, but due to the extreme will of the Lunarians, it sort of, the anger sort of leaks out of the script. You could easily argue that, and it forms in the will forms in the way of the Demon King or whatever, you know. That shit would be pretty cool in my personal opinion. But I don't know, to be honest. And a lot of people said, you know, well, I did think this when I was watching the movie, you know, I was like, all right, the whole freedom thing, you're kidnapping people, but then again, it made a lot of sense because Shanks fucked her over, you know what I mean? She wants to have that Madara Infinite Tsukuyomi sort of deal because Shanks just screwed her over. And it didn't help that he was looking away on top of treasure just to try and, you know, make it seem legit. But you know what? I think it really worked out for Shanks' character and made me like his character more. And it makes you sympathize with Uta because her dad is a bloody dumbass. You know what I'm saying? And her tragedy. I just want to know because she will have to show up in the manga, okay? Because this movie wasn't canon. The backstories and the character and stuff were canon, so that's what makes it interesting. My mind. All right, let's get to the theory. All right, let's get to all the theory stuff. So at the end of the movie, right, Shanks goes to give Uta some medicine. She's like, "No, I have to sing. I have to sing to the people, right?" But she smashes the medicine on the ground, and what happens then is she does this. She does the final song. It's like that one, right? And then we cut to Luffy, and he's like, "Where's Shanks?" And they're going away in a ship, and it's dark, and we cut to Shanks with a frown on his face, sort of deal, yeah. And then the movie ends, and we get to see clips of people listening to her music all around the All Blue, right? In that sort of way, yeah. That's the whole vibe he's giving off. A lot of people thought she was dead. In fact, that's the main thing one of my mates were going for, right? But I don't think Uta died in this movie for two simple reasons, right? It would make sense because it's a non-canon movie and it'd be an interesting way to end off the movie, right? Maybe Luffy's involvement caused this, or like her Shanks being too late, which would further Shanks' failure. But I don't think so because obviously the original intention was to end on Minku no Nasake, or, you know, because that's in the soundtrack and it's Uta singing it. So either they were going to be going away on the red hair pirate ship and they were all going to be singing that song because obviously it's like a journey as a pirate, right? Or they were all going to be singing it on Elgia as a final like encore at the end. You know what I mean? With all the cast and something that would be pretty cool as well. So I do think based on the original plans that she's not dead. Especially because the events aren't canon, so it wouldn't make sense to kill a character off in an uncanon movie and have her show up in the canon material. So I don't think she's dead. I think she might be seriously ill, but I don't think she's dead. And do we think now? I do actually want to talk about my a few of my ideas for the canon material of Uta. Right, first idea was immediately a 10th Titanic captain. Don't ask me why this popped into my head. It just did. All right, I was like, man, Uta should be the 10th Titanic captain. Because think of it this way: Shanks' whole goal has been to take down Blackbeard, and imagine it. And every time he's failed, and every time he's just helped Blackbeard it, indirectly based on how he's made his decisions. You know what I mean? So it's like, imagine if his decision to try and protect Uta by leaving her on Elgia makes it so Blackbeard ends up picking her up. So instead of all this stuff happening with her wanting to do her new Genesis, maybe Blackbeard sort of pulls her along, finds Elgia and is like, sort of, figures out her abilities and puts it to use. Because it'd be a really strong ability for Blackbeard. As someone who doesn't sleep, he's probably not affected by it, right? So basically, he can take out his enemies, put them in their own world, and deal with them that way. Like, it's a pretty solid ability for him, where he can create the world he wants to create. It seems like the sort of ability that might be handy for Blackbeard. Even just for planning to visualize stuff, the ability would be handy, because you can create things. You could create fictional maps. You could create like props and stuff. It just seems functionally well suited to Blackbeard as someone who doesn't sleep, right? And especially if he finds out that it's the adoptive child of Shanks, because I'm sure if he gets to her at that pre-time skip era, if he got to her like pre-time skip or early time skip, during the time skip, she's a slight bit younger. She's probably around Luffy's current age, meaning she's a little bit more emotional than she would be 2 years in the future. So she might be easier to get that information out of. I know this is fiction, so not necessarily, but I do think that's a fascinating idea. All Shanks' failures culminate in Uta being the 10th Titanic captain of the Blackbeard Pirates, the person Shanks has been fighting against all this time. And imagine if everyone's theory about Shanks dying does come to pass, and it's caused by Uta. Not necessarily to die by her hand, but her actions directly lead to Shanks' death. And then she realizes the error of what she's doing, and Luffy loses his shit. You know what I'm saying? That would be absolutely top tier material, bro. I would be so happy about that. I would be over the moon with that shit. Honestly, that would be one of the greatest twists ever known to man. Now, there is the other thing where it could be simply that everything in that movie did happen, but Luffy wasn't involved. So she's just on the Red Hair Pirates now. That's less fun, but that could totally be done. Or it's as simple as Shanks made the right decision in the main story, and it was like an alternate decision where, Shanks didn't decide to leave Uta behind like an arsehole, right? And maybe he stayed, he could have stayed on Elgia and rebuilt Elgia, because he seems like that sort of person. Or he could have just brought Uta and Gordon with him, and done that instead, and still taken the blame for it to avoid any publicity towards Uta or Tota Musica itself. And I still think Blackbeard might have some interest in Tota Musica, and it might come into play in the current arc. You never know. And hell, she could, if we're talking about the current arc, she could be a revolutionary. Because imagine if it's like, they find Elgia, it's all destroyed. Gordon's the only one there. Uta, and she wants her dream for a new Genesis. And Dragon also takes advantage of that. And she sort of comes to know Sabo, right? And they learn about Luffy together and his escapades. I think that would be fabulous. Right? She has to show up at some point, because she was put in now to basically be Luffy's core motivations. His two motivations at the start of the series were become King of the Pirates and find a musician for my crew. And both of those were in some way inspired by Uta, right? So she has to show up in some form. I know she got a little fan service near the end there, the Wano arc, where she shows up as a silhouette, but in a flashback. But I'm telling you, there are a lot of fantastic ideas for Uta. Now, I actually wanted to ask this, right? You know the wings she has during the movie, the pink and white ones. I think they're just normal plug-on wings. I don't think she's actually a sky person or a Birkin or anything like that. I think the wings she got at the end of the movie were solely because of Tota Musica and its connection to the Lunarians, in my opinion. Well, perceived connection to the Lunarians for the Black Wings idea, right? I am very excited to see what this does and see, because a lot of the characters in in Film Red will probably be relevant in the coming arcs, because they obviously thought of them and they were like, we got to do this now, we got to get this sword. Like Kobe's there, Bluno's there. In fact, it kind of gave me the idea that maybe that's how they're going to save Kobe in in the actual canon story without causing any problems, in a way of having like the Dordor fruit basically save his ass. Because we do know, actually no, that's not happening, because as far as I know, Bluno is CP0, so never mind, he's not sword, so that's not true either. I take that back. But I will say, this movie, besides the nitpicks I had, this movie was phenomenal. I loved every moment of it. I love the designs. I love the fact that Jinbei was in the movie. I was like so hyped. I was like, oh my god, I got my boy Jinbei. I was like on top of the moon. I wish he did a bit more, but you know, there's not much more you can ask for, is there, right? It was a really good movie. The only thing that could have made it even better would be Gordon being slightly better, and his motivations and Tota Musica being a bit more, you know, like, oh, we couldn't destroy it, instead of I didn't want to destroy it because of its musical ability. It was just too much of a banger. I couldn't destroy it. You gotta understand, it was too much of a banger, is essentially what it came down to, right? You know what I mean? And that was one of my biggest negatives, because when I first watched the movie, the first like 10 minutes of brewing over, I was like, what did Shanks do? But then after like 15, 20 minutes, after I kind of sat there, you know, thinking about it, I was like, this actually works. This shit's really, really good. And I actually to be honest, what might have sparked it is like what might have sparked that idea was immediately after I summoned like the Shanks and Whitebeard unit in Treasure Cruise, because I booted up Treasure Cruise again to try and get the Uta unit, because I haven't Bounty Rush. I know, this is how my ideas sprout. You gotta understand them shit. You know what I mean? So I don't know, bro. This movie was amazing and I loved it. And the more I'm talking about it now, the more I think that 10 out of 10 rating is warranted. Because if Gordon is my only issue and he doesn't play that big a role, I don't think I have the heart to maybe put it less than 10 at this point. I really wish I could rewatch it. Unfortunately, it's out of theaters by now. It was only going to be in Irish theaters for 4 days, and it's probably not going to be on Blu-ray for three months or so. So I'm gonna have to wait, unfortunately, because I don't know. And I hope the Blu-rays don't sell out. I hope we get access to them. And Crunchyroll will probably be another 6 months. Hopefully they do like a treat where it's like, you know what, will be nice and they release it over the Christmas break. That would be, you know, if Toei allowed Crunchyroll to stream it on their services over the Christmas break, oh, that'd be so good. I would really appreciate that. But I doubt it. I do doubt it. Or at least let it be rentable on the PlayStation Store. I just want to watch it again and learn more about it and see all the Easter eggs, because loads of people in Japan went to see it like 10 times. And I don't know. And saw a lot more stuff that I didn't see, unfortunately. But I'm excited, and it got me excited to see what the red hair pirates are like, you know what I mean? And see how they are in the story. Um let's talk about the Gear 5th stuff real quick. So Gear 5th showed up in the in the movie. It was a small moment and it was really cool and I really enjoyed it. But it also does lead into a really cool thing about Gear 5th, right? And how it might be used in future combat. Because we saw it in Wano, where Luffy was switching between Snake Man, Bounce Man, Tank Man, you know, to get the best utility out of it. And I would sort of like the idea if it was sort of done in a way where it's like manga Super Saiyan Red and Super Saiyan Blue, were done in a way where it was like, you know, when I'm being defensive, I go into Super Saiyan Red, and when I'm being just before I attack, I switch into Super Saiyan Blue for the offensive hit, right? If that's like that with Gear Fifth, when Luffy's fighting with it now, where he goes Snake Man to get up to someone, then when he's going for the punch, he goes to Gear Fifth to do, you know, kind of like just switching between them based on the utility needed. You know what I mean? Making it so Gear Fourth isn't entirely useless would be fascinating to me. I'd love to see that be taken, because in the movie when he's attacking Tota Musica, he switches mid punch into Gear Fifth, which is what makes me fascinated with the idea. But we'll have to see in the coming arcs and in the coming few chapters how it's handled, to be honest with you. But like, going back to Uta for this final segment of the video, her characterization was top notch. Her voice actor was amazing. The music chosen for her to do was fantastic. The musician chosen for it was, oh my god, fabulous artist. I've listened to a lot of her stuff recently since the promotion came out. Love this artist. Fantastic music, fantastic soundtrack. You couldn't ask for anything better. Well, I mean, you could have had you could have, but like we all know we wouldn't have got it, so we're not gonna bother. You could have got more Jinbei screen time. We could have got a movie all about Jinbei, all about the big boss Jinbei. You know what I'm saying? Instead, we got that filthy Shanks. No, we could have got a movie all about the big boss Jinbei, but we didn't. No, but seriously, it was a fantastic movie and a fantastic movie experience. And honestly, if your country is in any way lucky to still have it in theaters, I would recommend you go watch it immediately, like ASAP. It's probably one of the greatest One Piece movies made so far, in my opinion. The only movie I think I've watched of One Piece that even competes with it is probably Film Z. It all depends on what you're looking for, to be honest. Which one you prefer. I think they're both amazing movies in their own right for different characters. Uta is definitely the best movie character created and put in the main story. She's a fantastic character, fantastic reasoning for everything she does. You know, connections to the main cast, impact on Luffy. Everything about her is just top tier, to be honest with you. Her design is really cool. The jacket is drippy. Like, everything is just fantastic. Now all she needs is a bit of Conqueror sake and we'll be all good. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, if you have watched the movie, let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. And with that being said, I will see you all next time for some more actual chapter stuff. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about Phantom Red, because I fucking loved it.